something really weird is happening in New Zealand, as you used to be able to support yourself, but now you can't pay for anything because none of the wages can keep up with the cost of living. And you literally need to be a millionaire just to buy a house. And as someone who visits here a lot, only to see my local friends leaving New Zealand one after another to live and work in America, today I'm breaking down the untold truth of why people are leaving New Zealand in record numbers, and why that should worry you.
And for all 7 of them, we'll be going through them from the tiniest to the biggest reasons why I think all of this is happening. And let us begin with the first one.
But to figure out what exactly is going on in New Zealand, we need to find out how much life over here has changed in just a few years. And this one came from my Kiwi friend who worked a job in the hospital 6 years ago, making about $25 an hour, and needed to literally eat cup noodles just to save what little was left after paying for rent and grocery bills in New Zealand. But fast forward a few years, she moved to California and America, still working the same job, but now she makes 6 times more than what she was paid back in New Zealand. And she's not the only one. Some of her co-workers moved to Japan, the rest moved to places like Canada, the UK, or Australia, but I got curious, you know, cause growing up in America, I always see New Zealand as the last remaining paradise on earth, filled with people as lovely as you can imagine, that hasn't been taken over by greed from the big international companies. So I just said to them like, why would you ever want to leave New Zealand? And that's when it gave me the reasons you're about to hear in this video. But surprisingly, the cost of living is not even the first one, because at number 7, you wouldn't believe how difficult it is to make friends in New Zealand, especially for the locals. Because despite the Kiwis being one of the best at making light conversation, they also love to keep to themselves, with many saying they would rather hang out with people they've known for over 20 years as compared to making new friends. With one of my Kiwi friends even saying how it's easier for him to make friends with foreigners as compared to his fellow Kiwis, leading to a lot of sayings like, if you're lonely, you're not alone in New Zealand, which is impossible to believe if you're just traveling here for fun without knowing how deeply this is affecting everyone.
But if you look all over the world, almost every developed nation is having its own loneliness epidemic, with WHO even declaring it a global public health concern. So from looks of it, the pasture doesn't get greener outside of New Zealand, at least on this aspect. But I can say the same for the next reason.
Because reason number 6 is the crazy unemployment and the job market that frankly doesn't even have enough jobs to be called a job market, okay? With the unemployment being at an all-time high in recent years, and the number of job ads at an all-time low, it's only fair to say that if you can't find a decent job, it's not you, it's the job market. And I definitely noticed how suddenly my Kiwi friends all have side hustles going on. Like they used to relax and walk around the river, like you know how Kiwis are the chill and laid back kind of folks. But now they're all selling stuff out there or taking gigs on the internet just to save up for, we're talking about the houses, okay, don't you worry. And with the cost of living completely out of control, many people don't feel like their wages are being raised just for them to afford the everyday needs. And it shocked me when I first heard it, but many of the parents I know admit they're still supporting their kids financially, even if they're also working. But getting a job is not the only issue because they have to be decent jobs, right? Otherwise, what's the point? But due to the nation being small and limited, there's not enough business opportunity to begin with. Like, maybe you want to work a tech job, or maybe you're an artist. Oh, I hope AI doesn't replace all of that. But depending on your line of work, it might be hard to grow in New Zealand due to the lack of desirable jobs. And once you do find a job to apply to, you almost never hear back from them to the point you question if your internet is even working.
But if you want to know what is happening on the inside, I have a local friend whose job is to hire people, and he said with every job he posts, he gets hundreds and not thousands of applicants. But once they remove the ones that can't even legally work in New Zealand, they're left with only a handful of candidates, showing you just how many fake resumes they need to sift through just to get to your applications.
So I guess the job market is a mess for everyone. Unlike the subscribe button, which you should click if you like the video so far. But finding a job isn't the only problem that people are facing in New Zealand, because it's impossible to climb up the job ladder for the younger generations, and that is our reason number 5. With some of them outright saying how they're sick of the older generations of managers gatekeeping all the benefits and frankly not giving the younger employees any options opportunities in the workplace. Now it makes sense because they want to retain the biggest piece of the pie for themselves, and we all love to have pies, you know. But if the company now ain't giving promotions to the younger generations, then how do you expect them to pay for themselves? It's like you go into a sunken ship and you enter the captain's room and there's literally a skeleton sitting there. That's how my Kiwi friends describe working a corporate job in New Zealand, man. Gotta love the Kiwi sense of humor. But one of them even said how she's known friends in places in Australia and London who have climbed all the way up the ladder, getting all the crazy promotions while she's here, thinking to herself that being loyal to her job in New Zealand is even going to bring her the same thing.
But job loyalty used to get you something. Used to get you respect and higher pay. But for this generation, it seems like the only option is to move sideways to somewhere else or move out.
But the next one is the one where you may not think it even belongs to the list. But I don't know why it comes up all the time when asking locals why they're leaving, and that is the endless comparison to other successful Western countries. I wonder why New Zealand has to be so isolated and can't seem to benefit from the booming economy happening anywhere else. Because when you talk about the Western countries, New Zealand's also included, right? So you can't help but wonder, if their economy and their cost of living have already gone back to normal, why is New Zealand somehow still in recession? If you look up the news, experts are also saying the same thing, like why isn't the economy bouncing back? And for so many people, their solution was to simply move away to a better economy. But everything we've gone over so far, they are minor issues. But now we're in the top 3, and that's when things are about to take a serious turn. Because for tourists like myself, New Zealand is beautiful, and I can just travel here, take all the pictures, and then go back. But for the people here, this is their home. So if someone were to leave their home, then you know it has to be serious. Because reason number 3 is politics and the increasing political divide, especially since the invention of social media, which makes it impossible to avoid whatever crazy stuff that is happening in politics. My friend in Auckland puts it best. He says it feels like each side is just as bad as the other, spending all their time arguing about how the world would literally end if the other party takes over, with some worrying whether it's going down the same path as American politics. Now, I don't think that's the case, or at least I hope so. Even though Kiwis do engage in politics and choose parties, etc., and you do see the tensions between different groups, and I also encountered a few protests.
But at least people don't fight over politics and put like political bumper stickers over their cars just like the way we do in America. But the so-called you're either with us or against us kind of vibe is definitely growing between the left and right wing.
But whatever you do, just remember that we always have a common enemy, and that is the cost of living completely out of control. And the number 2 reason why people are leaving. Did you ever notice how many things essential to life are more expensive than in Australia and other places, even though they're made in New Zealand? Like, how does that make any sense? If you take into account the wage and how much you have to pay just to function as a human being, as compared to other places with similar pay, it begins to feel like playing a game that you can't win. The best example I have is this one. So I went to a local Wendy's in New Zealand and paid $3 to get this chicken sandwich, and you might think to yourself, oh, that seems reasonable. But in California, the same burger only cost me $2.50. So you're literally paying more than the most expensive place in all of America. And with how unaffordable everything is, you can't help but wonder if you're being underpaid as a worker. Because that money from the customers has to go somewhere, right? If it's not going to the workers, then I'm worried whether this economy is sustainable or not. And this isn't just like a lot of nations out there where the TV is expensive, the hotels are too expensive, the price for going to movies is so much, I guess I won't be needing them. No, the ones that are skyrocketing in prices are the ones you absolutely need in your life. It's not like we can live on eating random mushrooms. So it becomes a situation where people are born here, where staying here is expensive, and moving away is even more expensive. And yes, the scenery is good, but like my Kiwi friend said, you can't eat the scenery, you still need food on the table.
And what's interesting is that recently, one of my Aussie friends heard about what's happening to New Zealand's economy, and he outright said, why don't you just move to Australia? And my friend from New Zealand literally replied, because I hate the heat bees, snakes, and spiders. It's funny, but seriously, tell me what you think about it.
But reason number one that white people are leaving is even scarier than all the snakes and spiders combined. Because you can't have a family without having a house. But how can anyone do that when the median house prices are way above $1 million in the cities? Did you notice how many news reports seem to be saying how house prices in New Zealand fall again? It's never been a better time to buy. But if something valued at $100 a decade ago skyrocketed to $1,000, and then suddenly drops back to $970, would you consider that cheap? Seriously, what's wrong with the real estate business? Many of the Kiwi parents I know bought their houses for $60,000 back in the days are now worth over $1 million. Bro, buying houses has a better return on investment than working in New Zealand. I found a money hack, y'all. So it's not a surprise that many international investors are now flowing directly into the housing market. And if they're making good money, which obviously they are, then it won't stop. And the problem is, you can't live without a house or an apartment. It's not like a pie where you can say, pies are too expensive, I'll eat something else. As the other option is literally being homeless. And I was homeless before, there's nothing fun about it. You're probably worth it eating the mushroom. And if you can't afford to have kids or buy your own home, it's not difficult to see why so many people chose to leave New Zealand, because at the end of the day, if you're wealthy and sorted, you're good. But if not, then here's my neighbor's cat. I don't know, maybe it helps.
But here's the thing, New Zealand's not the only one having the housing crisis, because what if I told you that in your neighbor Australia, things are getting even worse?
Because in this video, I talk about how a place called Gold Coast, a beautiful coastal city in Australia, has now become unlivable for the locals and why everyone is also leaving. And you can click on the video to find out what happened.